My name is Jenna Whitmore. I'm 29 years old, and up until a year ago, I thought I knew what loyalty looked like. I thought I had the kind of best friend people envied, the one who knew my coffee order, held my hair when I was sick, and texted, "Me, call me now," just to get me out of awkward dates. And I thought I had found the man I'd marry. We talked about buying a house, a dog, maybe even moving to Portland one day. It wasn't perfect, nothing ever is, but it felt real. Turns out, they were real. With each other, behind my back. This story isn't just about heartbreak, it's about betrayal that wears a friendly smile. It's about watching two people you once loved become strangers, and then enemies. If you've ever been blindsided by someone you trusted with your whole heart, if you've ever wished for just one moment where you could hold a mirror up to the people who hurt you, hit that like button and subscribe, because you'll want to hear how this ends. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the night I thought I'd met the one. I met Ryan at a rooftop party in Brooklyn. It was one of those early September nights that New Yorkers romanticize, cool enough for a jacket, but warm enough to feel alive. The city felt like it was holding its breath between summer and fall, and everyone around me seemed a little too eager to talk about new beginnings. You could smell it in the air, change, that low buzz of something about to happen. I was only there because Elise had dragged me out. "You've been buried in spreadsheets and microwaved pad thai for 2 months, she told me that morning. It's not healthy. Come out, wear lipstick, drink a beer that costs too much. So I went, and I wasn't expecting anything. Not a spark, not a moment. Definitely not him. Ryan wasn't the loudest guy at the party. He wasn't surrounded by a pack of guys doing shots or trying to show off. He stood near the edge of the rooftop with a glass of whiskey in his hand, watching the skyline like it was talking to him, not in a tortured artist kind of way, just quietly present. I noticed him before he noticed me, or maybe he was just better at hiding it. We bumped into each other near the bar setup, folding table, plastic cups, questionable sangria. I was reaching for a lime wedge and he said, "I wouldn't. That bowl's been through some things." I laughed. "Thanks for the heads up. Are you the citrus police?" He smiled, kind of sideways. "Only when it's life or death." That was the start. We talked about books. He loved Vonnegut, and I told him that was pretentious. He took it well. I mentioned I had a thing for nonfiction, and he said that made sense because I looked like someone who wanted answers. We moved. From books to tacos somehow, and then to life. And not in the fake, deep, "what's your sign" kind of way. It felt easy, real. Like we were skipping all the boring preamble and talking the way people do when they've already decided they like each other. At some point, the party faded into the background. The music got louder, the conversations messier, but we were just there, locked in. We left together around midnight. I wasn't drunk, just lightheaded in that way you get when a stranger makes you feel seen. We walked to the subway and then kept walking past it, not really saying where we were going, just moving through the night together. At one point, he told me, "You're a little intense." And I said, "So are thunderstorms, and everyone loves those." He laughed. Fair enough. I went home alone that night, not because I didn't want more, but because I wanted to savor it. I wanted to wake up the next morning and not feel weird or regretful, just excited, and I was. The next day, I called Elise. She was my default for every life update, big or small. We met in a freshman English lit class, and she'd become the person I called when my landlord was being shady, or when I had a dream so weird I couldn't stop thinking about it. She was more than a best friend. She was my anchor. "Elise, I think I met someone," I told her, trying not to sound too eager. She screamed through the phone, "Finally! What's he like? Is he tall?" I laughed. "You'll meet him." soon. And she did. 2 weeks later, Ryan and I were in that awkward pre-dating but definitely dating stage, and I invited him to a trivia night Elise and I had been going to for years. They hit it off immediately. Too immediately. Elise was being her usual self, loud, funny, effortlessly charming, and Ryan kept up with her, quipping back, matching her sarcasm, smiling at her like they'd known each other forever. It was fine. It had to be fine. I told myself not to overthink it. Elise was always warm to the people I dated. She took pride in being the best friend who actually tries. She made people feel welcome. That was just her nature. Still, there were moments. Like when Ryan made a dumb joke and Elise laughed just a little too hard. Or the way her hand lingered on his shoulder when she said goodbye. Or how he turned to her first when our team won the final round. Not to me. I didn't say anything. Because I didn't want to be that girl. The paranoid one. The insecure one. The one who turns a moment into a motive. Instead, I brushed it off. Told myself it was my imagination. Told myself that good friends should get along with the person you're seeing. Told myself that if something were off, I would feel it. But the truth is, I did feel it. I just didn't want to admit it. Because for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. And maybe I was a little desperate to hold on to that feeling. So I told Elise every detail about Ryan. The good, the annoying, the intimate stuff. How he kissed, how he pulled me closer in his sleep, how he once cried during a commercial and tried to hide it, and Elise listened, asked questions, smiled through the phone. She was always asking how things were really going, always wanting to know more, and I didn't see the danger in that. Not yet. At the time, it felt like sharing, like bonding, like trust. But in hindsight, it was something else entirely, something colder. It started small. The kind of small that's easy to ignore. The kind of small you only notice later, when you're replaying everything, trying to figure out the exact moment the floor started cracking under your feet. At first, it was just Ryan, taking a little longer to respond to texts. Not hours or days, just different. Slightly colder. He used to write full sentences, sometimes even paragraphs. Now it was short replies. Cool. Yeah. Haha. Things you could barely build a conversation on. I chalked it up to stress. He'd mentioned things at work getting intense, a new manager, longer hours, some internal shakeup that he didn't really elaborate on. I'm just burnt out, he said over ramen one night. It's not you. I nodded, didn't push. But then he started canceling. Plans we'd made together. Little things, coffee before work, a movie night, brunch with my cousin, and always with the same tone, apologetic, vague, tired. It's not you, he kept saying. The thing is, people always say that, and maybe they even believe it. But when someone who used to feel electric around you suddenly feels unplugged, you know something's different, even if they won't say it, even if you're not ready to hear it. I remember sitting on my bed one night after another last-minute cancellation. He'd bailed on meeting me and Elise for drinks, and I stared at my phone for what felt like hours, just holding it, thumb hovering, wondering what I'd done wrong, wondering if maybe I was asking too much. And then I got this text from Elise. Hey, you okay? You seemed kinda off earlier. I paused. Thought about telling her everything. The doubt, the unease, the way Ryan had been slipping through my fingers like steam. But I didn't want to sound pathetic. So I wrote back. All good. Just tired, she replied instantly. Same. Long week. Let's plan a girls' night soon. And just like that, I convinced myself again that I was overthinking it. That everything was fine. that Elise was still my person, that Ryan was just temporarily distant. The following week, he started pulling away physically too. The cuddles lasted shorter. His touch felt more like routine than warmth. He used to run his fingers down my back when we lay on the couch. Now his hand stayed to himself. One night, I asked, "Is something going on?" He looked at me like he didn't understand the question. Then he kissed my forehead and said, "You worry too much." I smiled, nodded, let it go, but I didn't stop worrying. It was around then that Elise started becoming weird too. Not obviously, not dramatically, just different. We'd always talked every other day at least. Suddenly she was super busy. Hard to reach, slow to respond, canceling plans we'd made, saying work was getting crazy. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. Until one Sunday afternoon, I was walking home from Trader Joe's, balancing way too many bags, when I saw them, Ryan and Elise, together, sitting on a bench outside a small cafe in Fort Greene, not doing anything suspicious, not holding hands, not touching, but laughing, close, comfortable, like they were mid-conversation and didn't want it to end. I froze, watched from across the street. They didn't see me. I didn't even breathe. It wasn't what they were doing that got me. It was how they looked at each other. That look you get when you share an inside joke. The kind of look you don't just give anyone. I stood there for maybe 5 minutes. Maybe 10. I don't even know. Just watching. And then I walked away. Fast, like I could outrun the ache forming in my chest. That night, I didn't say anything to either of them. I just curled up on my couch, blanket over my head like a shield, and stared at the wall. I kept replaying their faces, their smiles. That invisible thread between them, I couldn't explain it. I had no proof, but I knew. I knew. Something had shifted. I knew the two people I trusted most were starting to hide things from me, and yet, part of me still wanted to believe that there had to be a rational explanation. Maybe they'd run into each other. Maybe Elise was just being a supportive friend. Maybe, but the maybes were getting heavy, and the silence was louder than anything they could have said. I've always believed that the worst kind of betrayal isn't the loud, dramatic kind. It's the quiet kind. The kind that makes you feel stupid for even asking questions. The kind that hides in plain sight, under layers of smiles and well-practiced words. That's what the next few weeks felt like. I didn't confront them. Not right away. I wish I could say I stormed into that cafe, flipped the table, and demanded answers. But I didn't. I swallowed it. Let it sit in the back of my throat like a lump I couldn't cough up. I told myself I needed to be sure. So, I started paying attention to everything. Ryan suddenly had a lot more late nights at work, yet came home without the usual stress on his face. His phone was always face down now. Little things I'd never noticed before became impossible to ignore. He even changed his passcode, which he'd always been casual about before. I didn't ask why. I just smiled, nodded, took note. Elise was worse. She kept sending me memes, jokes, inside references from college, like she was trying to keep the friendship alive on autopilot, but without the actual presence. No calls, rare replies. And when we did talk, it was all surface level. Nothing real, nothing personal. I tried once to bring it up. "Hey," I texted her late one night. "Are we good?" She replied the next morning. "Of course. Why wouldn't we be?" It felt fake. I didn't know how I knew. I just did. The hearts, the fake cheer. It read like someone trying too hard to sound natural. A few days later, I invited her over. I needed to see her face, hear her voice, watch how she'd act around me. She showed up in leggings and a giant hoodie, hair in a messy bun, holding a bottle of wine. "Girl, it's been too long," she said as she walked in. She hugged me like nothing had changed. We sat on the couch, opened the wine, talked about nothing, TV shows, her job. She complained about a coworker she swore was trying to sabotage her presentations. I listened, smiled, let her talk. Then, I asked casually, "Have you seen Ryan lately?" She didn't blink. "Ryan? No. Not really. Why?" I shrugged. "Just wondering. He's been distant." She nodded, sipped her wine. "Yeah, that happens. Guys go through stuff and they don't talk about it. You know how it is?" Her voice was smooth. Too smooth. And for the first time in our friendship, I realized something. Elise wasn't bad at lying. She was excellent at it. She didn't fidget, didn't look away. She had a response for everything. Later that night, when she went to the bathroom, I peeked at her phone. I know how that sounds. I know it was a line I probably shouldn't have crossed. But something inside me had cracked, and the need to know was stronger than my need to play it cool. She'd left her phone unlocked, and I didn't have to dig far. At the top of her messages, Ryan. My heart dropped. I opened the thread. There weren't any heart emojis, no "I miss you" or "can't wait to see you." They were smarter than that. But the timing, the tone, it was them. Ryan. "You still good for Thursday?" "Same spot." Elise. "Yep. Be there at 6. Don't be late this time, LOL." Ryan. "Not my fault you're always early." Elise. "Or maybe you're just slow." There was a familiarity in the way they spoke. Relaxed, intimate, like this. Wasn't new. Like it had been going on for a while. I locked her phone, put it back, sat still. My chest was tight. My ears were ringing. When she came back, I smiled, poured her another glass, pretended everything was fine, but something in me had changed. I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't wondering. I knew. After she left, I called Ryan. It was late, past midnight. He sounded sleepy when he picked up. "Hey, everything okay?" I paused, then said, "Yeah, just couldn't sleep." "Same," he replied. "You want to come over?" I thought about it, about how easy it would be to just go, to pretend we were still okay, to wrap myself in the illusion a little longer. But I said, "Not tonight. Maybe tomorrow." We hung up. I didn't sleep. The next day, I followed him. I know. I sound like a crazy person, but I needed confirmation, not just from messages, not from the way they talked around the truth. I needed to see it. With my own eyes, he told me he had a meeting at 5. Wouldn't be free until later. At 4:30, I watched him leave his building. Not dressed for a meeting, dressed casually, like someone going to dinner. I followed him in an Uber, kept my distance. Watched him walk into a restaurant, not a hidden dive, not a random spot, but the same cozy place I'd seen him with Elise weeks ago. At 5:55, she walked in, smiling. He stood up when he saw her, hugged her, not long, not romantic, but not just friends either. They sat across from each other, ordered drinks, talked. I didn't go in. I just sat in the car, watching through the window, feeling everything inside me hollow out. You know that feeling when something breaks, and for a second, there's silence, like the air is holding its breath? That was me. No tears, no outburst, just this quiet, dull ache that said they chose each other, and neither of them had the guts to tell me. There's a strange thing that happens after the truth finally hits you. You'd think it would bring clarity, peace, maybe, but for me, it brought obsession. I couldn't stop replaying everything. Every glance, every half smile Elise had made. When Ryan walked into the room, every time his phone buzzed and he said, "Just work stuff." I was digging through memories like they were evidence in a crime scene. And then I remembered something. A weekend, 2 months ago. Ryan had canceled a Saturday brunch with me, said he was heading upstate for a last-minute work retreat. No signal, he claimed. No Wi-Fi. Nothing. At the time, I believed him. Why wouldn't I? But now I wasn't so sure. I dug up that weekend in my phone, looked through my texts with Elise, and that's when I saw it. A photo. Just one. She'd sent it to me on that same Saturday. Said she was treating herself to a solo day out, and captioned it, "Nothing like wine and sunshine to clear your head." It was a picture of a vineyard, rolling hills in the background. A half-finished glass of red on a patio table. At the time, it meant nothing. Now it meant everything. Because I knew that vineyard. We'd talked about going there. Me and Ryan. A few times, I even had it saved in a folder titled Cute Date Ideas. It was 2 hours outside the city, and I knew Elise didn't drive, so unless she took a $300 Uber to sip wine by herself, which wasn't impossible, just unlikely, then someone brought her there. Someone like Ryan. I stared at the image for a long time. Zoomed in, looked for reflections in the wine glass like a crazy person. Tried to convince myself that it didn't mean what I thought it meant, but it did. I didn't have proof. Not yet. But I was getting close. And that's when I made a decision. Wasn't going to confront them. I was going to confirm it. And then I was going to expose them. But first, I needed help. I called Claire. Now, Claire isn't just some random friend. She's the kind of friend you call when your life is on fire and you need someone who won't just hand you water. She'll hand you gasoline and a lighter, if that's what it takes to make it right. When I told her what was going on, she didn't even blink. "Okay," she said. "Let's catch a cheater." I laughed, half crying. "It's not funny." "I'm not laughing," she replied. "I'm strategizing." She came over that night, armed with a laptop, iced coffee, and a terrifying level of determination. We started with the basics. She pulled up Elise's Instagram. Nothing suspicious. Of course. Elise was smart. Most of her posts were throwbacks, food pics, filtered sunsets, the usual curated nonsense. But Claire was good. "Let's check her likes," she muttered. "And the comments." We dug deep. Went months back, and there it was. A post from a mutual friend, a birthday dinner, a group shot. I had skipped that. Dinner because I was sick. Ryan had said he might swing by after work. I didn't think he actually did, but in the background of that photo, barely noticeable, was Ryan's jacket. His jacket, the navy one with the brown suede elbows, the one he only wore on special occasions. Claire leaned in. He was there. Maybe they were just both invited, I offered weakly. Claire gave me a look. "Don't do that. You're not crazy, Jenna. They're just good at being sneaky." I nodded. I needed to stop making excuses for people who wouldn't have made a single one for me. That night, we hatched a plan. I wouldn't confront them. I'd invite them to the same place, at the same time, and I'd see, once and for all, what they'd do. We chose a Friday. I texted Elise first. "Hey, I miss you. Can we do brunch this weekend? Just us?" She replied instantly. "Yes! I'd love that." "Sunday, okay?" Then I texted Ryan. "Hey, babe, I have to go see my cousin Sunday." "But what?" "About Friday night? Just us? Wine and takeout?" He replied, "Perfect. Can't wait." Except I wasn't going to be there. Friday night, Claire and I sat in her car outside Elise's apartment. At 7:10, Ryan showed up. With wine. He buzzed up, was let in. He didn't know I knew, and I planned to keep it that way. For now. But something inside me snapped when I saw that bottle of wine, The same brand we used to drink on our couch, watching trash TV and laughing about nothing. The same brand he once bought for my birthday because he remembered it was my favorite. He was bringing it to her now. That hurt, more than anything. Claire rested her hand on mine. "You okay?" I nodded. "Not really, but I will be." We stayed in the car another hour, just watching the building. No drama, no fire, just silence and fluorescent hallway lights behind the windows. That's when I decided something. This wasn't just betrayal. This was strategy. They had built a lie together, not once, not by accident, but over weeks, months, and it wasn't just the cheating. It was the way they protected the secret, the way they covered for each other. That kind of deceit takes effort, intention. And now that I knew, it was time to return the favor. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I wasn't cold. I was burning with humiliation, confusion, grief, and the quiet, growing fire of resolve. I wasn't interested in screaming matches or social media exposés. I didn't want to throw punches. I wanted the truth to unravel in front of them, publicly, without me ever raising my voice. But to do that, I had to wait, watch, set the trap. I started with something small, a group dinner. I told Elise I was thinking of organizing something. Old times, I said. A little reunion of our college group. Nothing fancy. She was thrilled. "Finally," she replied. "I've missed everyone." I mentioned it to Ryan too, casually. He seemed less enthusiastic. "Do I have to go?" he said, half joking. "You used to love them," I replied. He shrugged. "Yeah, I guess. Work's just been a lot lately. I didn't push. I didn't need him excited. I just needed him there." Over the next 2 weeks, I played nice. Friendly texts, inside jokes, normal Jenna. The version of me they were used to underestimating. But behind the scenes, I was building a web. Claire helped me rent out a small private room in a restaurant downtown, cozy, chic. Enough space for 12 people. I invited everyone they knew, and people they didn't think I knew, like Elise's ex, Derek, and Ryan's old roommate Mark, who had once told me years ago, "If Ryan ever cheats on you, you'll be the last to know. He's too smooth." I asked him to come. I told him why. He said, "I'm in." I also reached out to a girl named Hannah. I didn't know her well, just through Instagram. But she had once dated Ryan, briefly. It didn't end well. She told me he ghosted her after a few months and that she wasn't surprised. "Why?" I asked. She laughed. "Because guys like him always recycle the same lies. The only difference is the girl." I thanked her and didn't ask for more. I didn't need a history lesson. I needed confirmation that I wasn't crazy, that Ryan's pattern had a name. The night of the dinner came fast. I got ready slowly. I wore the same red dress I'd worn the first time Ryan told me he loved me. It didn't feel like a coincidence. It felt like a statement. Claire picked me up and looked me over. "You look like a storm's about to happen," she said. I smiled. That's the idea. People started arriving one by one. Laughter, drinks, stories. I kept the energy light. Elise showed up last, wearing a silky green top and her usual "look at me but don't" makeup. She hugged me tightly, too tightly, like a guilty child seeking forgiveness before being caught. Ryan walked in 5 minutes later. Late, of course, like he always was when he wasn't the center of attention. He froze a bit when he saw Elise already there. I watched it happen. His mask slipped for just a second. Then he recovered. Quick smile. Nod. Casual, like always. "Hey," he said, kissing me on the cheek. I let him. Dinner started. Conversations flowed. I barely ate. I watched how Elise kept stealing glances across the table, watched how Ryan's hand lingered on her back when she passed behind him, watched how they avoided each other too deliberately, like two magnets that knew they'd snap together if they got too close. Everyone else? They had no idea. But I did. Halfway through the meal, I stood up and tapped my glass. Sorry, I know. Very cheesy of me, I said, smiling. But I just wanted to say something. The room quieted. I've been thinking a lot lately, I began, about loyalty. And how it's not about what people say when you're watching, but what they do when you're not. A few nervous laughs. Ryan stared at his wine. Elise's face tightened just a little. I kept going. I think betrayal doesn't always look like yelling or cheating or drama. Sometimes it looks like silence, like someone you trust slowly turning into a stranger, one lie at a time. Now they were listening. I just wanted to say thank you, I finished, to the people in this room who have shown me what real loyalty looks like. You know who you are. I sat down. Claire squeezed my hand under the table. Elise cleared her throat. That was lovely, Jenna. Ryan smiled stiffly. Yeah, nice words. I didn't respond. I let the discomfort settle around them like smoke. But I wasn't done. 2 days later, I posted the vineyard photo Elise had sent me. No caption. Just the glass of wine, the same view, same angle, but zoomed out, showing 2 wine glasses this time. I had edited it just enough to suggest someone else had taken it. People noticed. Mark DM'd me an hour later. Wait, didn't Ryan say he was at a work thing that weekend? Claire shared the post to her story and added one word. Interesting, but still, nothing from Ryan, nothing from Elise. I waited. Then, a week later, it happened. Elise posted a story of her and Ryan, not together, but in the same room, at what looked like a house party. She tried to play it off. He was blurry in the background, but I saw it. The lie was cracking. So I did one last thing. I RSVP'd to their engagement party. Yes, engagement. Because 3 days after that dinner, I got a text from a friend, a screenshot of Elise's private post. He proposed. I said yes. No mention of me, of us, of the history they bulldozed to get there. I smiled at my phone. Then I whispered to myself, perfect. Because now I had the perfect stage, and I was done being quiet. It was a Thursday, late afternoon. I was scrolling through my email, deleting junk, the usual, sales, newsletters, work stuff I didn't ask for. Then I saw it, a forwarded message from Claire. No subject line, just a paperclip icon. Attached. A PDF I clicked, and there it was. An ivory-colored digital wedding invitation. Minimalist, pretentious. The kind of thing Elise would die for. I recognized the font. She'd used it on her vision board back in college. Elise, Montgomery, and Ryan. Callahan invite you to celebrate their love. I stopped reading. My chest felt hollow, not shocked, just vacuumed out, like I'd already known. And this was just the confirmation. Claire's message below was simple. You weren't supposed to see this, but I figured you should. No. Warning, no dramatic buildup. Just a quiet gesture of loyalty. I stared at the invitation for a long time. The venue? A glass-walled garden estate just outside the city. The date? 3 weeks from that very Thursday. The guest list? Small, private, carefully curated, no Jenna Quinn, not even a fake courtesy invite. I wasn't just excluded, I was erased, and somehow that hit harder than anything else. I closed the laptop, sat there, silent. The hum of my refrigerator was the only sound in the room. I thought of all the things Elise and I had survived together. College exams, breakups, hangovers, career failures, big dreams and bigger disappointments. And now? She was marrying my ex in a hush-hush ceremony and had the audacity to pretend I didn't exist. At first, I told myself to let it go. It's over, I thought. They deserve each other. Let the trash take itself out. But the more I tried to move on, the more that invitation pulsed in my head like a wound that wouldn't close. The secrecy, the calculation, the fake smiles at dinner, the audacity of it all. No, this wasn't going to end with a whimper. If they wanted a perfect wedding, they were going to get one, just not the kind they were expecting. So I started planning, not a tantrum, not a scene, something quieter, slower, a poison, not an explosion. I reached out to Hannah again. I asked her, "Do you still have that photo of you and Ryan? The one he made you delete from your Instagram?" She laughed. "You mean the one where he's shirtless and I'm wearing his hoodie? Oh yeah, I still have it in my Google Drive." She sent it. Timestamp, 8 months into my relationship with him. Then I reached out to Mark again. I asked him what he remembered about Ryan's behavior back then, if there was anything else. Something personal. Mark hesitated at first. Then he said, "Ryan used to talk about Elise a lot, not just like a friend. He used to say things like, 'If Jenna wasn't around, maybe,' you know?" I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. It wasn't about what I knew anymore. It was about what I could prove, and I was starting to build a case. But how to deliver it? I couldn't just barge into their wedding screaming. That wasn't my style. I needed something more. Cinematic. Then it came to me. The venue website. I found it easily. Evergreen Hollow Estate. Gorgeous place. Pretentious as expected. But what caught my eye was the features page. State-of-the-art AV setup. Fully integrated screens. Audio. Plus video projection in main hall. Wireless presentation capabilities. I smiled. Oh, Elise, you made this so easy. A plan started forming. A real one. I'd need an inside person. Someone with access to the venue setup. Someone who wouldn't ask too many questions. Enter Maya, the bride's second cousin. We'd met once, years ago, when Elise dragged me to a family barbecue. Maya was quiet, sarcastic, and clearly unimpressed by Elise's performative sweetness. So I messaged her. At first, she was skeptical. "Why would I help you ruin my cousin's wedding?" I replied with one photo, the one of Ryan and Hannah. Time-stamped, dated, geotagged in Brooklyn. Maya took 30 seconds to reply. Wow, she really is the villain in her own story, huh? We met 2 days later at a cafe. I showed her everything. Photos, texts, voice memos. I didn't have to ask again. She said, "If you can get me the file, I'll make sure it plays." And just like that, the last piece locked into place. I created a video, 5 minutes long. It started with a photo of Elise and me in college, arms around each other, grinning, drunk on cheap champagne. Then it faded to a series of text screenshots. From Ryan, from Elise, from others. Over soft piano music, the captions read, "This is a love story, but not the kind you think." Then came Hannah's photo, the timestamp. Her quote about Ryan recycling lies. Then came clips of Elise's messages. To me, "I'd never do anything to hurt you, and you and Ryan are perfect together." Then the final slide. Some people write love stories. Others steal them, fade to black. I exported it to a USB. Sleek, anonymous, no watermark, and I handed it to Maya in a coffee cup. 3 weeks later, I wore a simple black dress, not too flashy, not mournful, just present. I wasn't invited, but that didn't matter. I knew the timing, the cues. Thanks to Maya, I knew exactly when the love story video montage would start during the reception. I slipped in just after the ceremony when no one was looking. The back doors weren't locked. I mingled. I smiled. I stayed quiet. I could smell the roses, hear the laughter, and then the lights dimmed. Elise and Ryan were called to the center of the dance floor for their first dance. Guests turned their heads toward the main screen, and my video began. The silence that followed was delicious, the way Elise's face dropped, the way Ryan turned pale, the gasps, the murmurs, the way her father stood up, confused, the way Claire clapped, just once, slowly. I didn't stay long, just long enough to see Elise rush out of the room, just long enough to whisper to Ryan as I passed him by. Congratulations. You finally made a scene. Then I left, and as I walked out into the cold night air, I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. And sometimes, that's better than revenge. The wedding video went viral, not on TikTok, not on YouTube. It never made it there. It spread in group chats, in whispered phone calls, in family emails labeled "Do Not Forward," which of course everyone did. Maya told me later that Elise's aunt fainted, that someone's new boyfriend asked aloud, "Wait, was that part of the entertainment?" The DJ didn't know whether to keep playing or unplug the speakers. The photographer kept snapping, like it was war, and Ryan, he disappeared for a full 48 hours. Elise posted nothing, not even a quote about growth or lessons learned. Radio silence. For someone who once updated her Instagram story when she chipped a nail, that was basically a siren. I didn't hear from her. I didn't expect to. But I did hear from others. Claire messaged me the next morning. "Holy hell, Jenna. You detonated a grenade in a garden party. I've never been so proud." Hannah sent a voice memo. "I know it's not polite to gloat, but damn, that was art." And Maya? She texted me a photo from the reception. A broken champagne glass on the floor, a smear of lipstick on a linen napkin, and a single word. Worth it. But despite all that satisfaction, despite finally seeing the truth seen, I wasn't floating. I wasn't celebrating. I was alone. I didn't feel regret. Just stillness. The kind that follows an earthquake, where everything is technically standing but tilted. Fragile. I spent a few days inside. No makeup, no texts, just me, some takeout, and a messy playlist that made my living room feel like a movie set. That's when it hit me. I wasn't sad about them. Not anymore. I was grieving me. The version of me that believed in forever. In best friends forever. The version that thought love was something you could protect just by being loyal. That girl? She was gone, and in her place stood someone sharper. Quieter, not bitter, but no longer willing to beg for kindness either. A week later, I bumped into Ryan at a cafe. Total accident. He looked off. Like someone who hadn't slept in days but still thought a pressed shirt could fix everything. He froze when he saw me, tried to smile. "Hey, Jenna." I didn't flinch, just took a sip of my coffee and said, "Hey, Ryan." He stood there, awkward, holding some overpriced iced chai, waiting for me to say more. Eventually, he sat down at the stool next to mine. "I guess you know everything now," he said. I nodded. "Guess I do." He stared at the counter. "I didn't mean to. Hurt you." I tilted my head. "But you did." Over and over. Silence. He fidgeted with the cardboard sleeve on his cup. "Elise." She's not talking to me. I almost laughed. You're surprised? He looked up at me, like he wanted me to say something comforting. Like maybe I would offer him the closure she wouldn't. Instead, I said, "You two deserve each other. That's not a compliment." Then I stood, picked up my bag, and walked away. I didn't look back. He didn't follow. Elise waited longer. Almost 3 weeks after the wedding that wasn't, I got an email. Not a message, not a call, not even a DM, an email. Like we were co-workers handling a formal complaint. Subject line: I don't even know what to say. The message: You humiliated me. I know what I did was wrong, but you didn't have to. Destroy everything. I loved you, Jenna. Maybe not in the way you think, but I did. And I didn't mean to fall for him. I didn't plan it. Can we talk? Just once. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to understand my side. I read it 3 times, not because I was considering it, but because I wanted to feel something. I didn't. Not rage, not heartbreak, just detachment. That's when I knew I was done. I didn't reply. Let her sit in that silence. The same silence she handed me when she planned her wedding behind my back. Let her talk to herself for once. People moved on. Sort of. In our circle, I became a myth. Some called me brave. Others called me petty. A few, mostly Elise's friends, called me dangerous. But no one called me wrong. Ryan's social media disappeared. Elise rebranded, deleted every photo of them, started posting yoga pics and captions about healing through pain. She even launched a podcast. Of course she did. Wounded Not Weak. Weekly episodes about betrayal, growth, and finding light in darkness. I listened once, just once. She told a story about a person she trusted who exposed her worst moment to the world. She never said my name, but she didn't have to. She cried at the end. Real or fake, I couldn't tell. Didn't matter. I turned it off and went back to my own life. One afternoon, I met Claire for lunch. She raised her glass and said, "To new beginnings and clean exits." I clinked mine with hers. To better endings. She looked at me, smirking. "You know, I'm proud of you. Not for the video. That was savage. But for surviving it all without turning into one of them." I smiled. And in that moment, I realized revenge wasn't the point. Truth. Was truth spoken aloud in the bright light of day? Because silence protects liars, and I was done protecting anyone but myself. It's been a year, 1 whole year since that wedding. Since I stood at the edge of their fairy tale and lit the whole thing on fire with the truth. People still ask me about it, not always directly. Sometimes it's just a raised eyebrow, or someone saying, "So, how are things?" What they mean is, "Did you heal? Are you still angry? Are you okay?" And here's the truth. I'm more than okay. I'm not the same woman who walked into that rooftop party in Brooklyn wearing her heart like a name tag. That version of me was soft in all the wrong places, willing to excuse red flags, eager to believe loyalty would be returned just because I gave it so freely. That girl's gone. But in her place, there's someone better, stronger, wiser, and yes, a little more dangerous. Let me tell you about my life now. I moved. Not across the country, just out of that apartment where I spent too many nights dissecting conversations, rereading texts, and doubting my own instincts. My new place is smaller, but it's all mine. Light pours in through the windows in the morning, and sometimes I just sit on the floor, coffee in hand, thinking, this piece? I built it. I changed jobs too. Left the agency where Elise and I once worked side by side, finishing each other's emails and gossiping over client calls. Now I work with a small team that actually listens, values boundaries, no more performative girl boss culture masking cutthroat competition, just real collaboration. It feels sane. Maya and Claire are still in my life, more than ever actually. Turns out, when your world implodes, the people who help you sweep up the glass, those are the ones worth keeping. We take weekend trips, celebrate tiny wins, talk about therapy like it's the weather. And speaking of therapy, yes, I started going. Not because I was falling apart, but because I didn't want to repeat the cycle. Because I needed to ask the real question, why did I ignore the signs? And the answer wasn't as dramatic as I expected. It came down to one brutal truth. I thought if I was good enough, loving enough, loyal enough, understanding enough, I could earn people's integrity. Turns out, integrity isn't something you can drag out of someone. They either have it or they don't. And when they don't, no amount of waiting, hoping, or sacrificing will grow it for them. I don't date much now. Not because I'm scared, but because I'm selective. I no longer confuse chemistry with connection. And if I feel even a hint of that slippery dishonesty, the kind that hides behind charming smiles and delayed replies, I walk, quickly, quietly, proudly. But here's the thing I didn't expect. I'm not lonely. I fill my own space now. I've taken up new hobbies: pottery, hiking, late-night writing. I've reconnected with parts of myself that got buried when I was busy holding up everyone else's world. And when I look in the mirror, I don't just see a survivor. I see a woman who refuses to stay small to make others comfortable. A woman who walked through fire and came out refined, not ruined. As for Elise and Ryan, I heard through mutuals that they broke up, not with fireworks or screaming matches, just drifted, quietly, like two people who finally ran out of excuses to pretend they were right for each other. And you know what? I don't care. Not in the performative, I'm too evolved kind of way. I mean it. They're no longer chapters in my story. They're just footnotes in a lesson I've already learned. Sometimes, people ask if I regret what I did, exposing them like that, ruining their perfect day. Here's my answer. No, I don't regret telling the truth. I regret trusting people who weren't worthy of it. But I'll never apologize for refusing to be silent, because silence protects the wrong people. And I've learned to protect myself now. So if you're watching this and you've ever been betrayed by a partner, by a best friend, by someone you never imagined would hurt you, I want you to know something. It's not the end. It's the beginning of a version of you that they will never have access to again. The strongest version. The clearest. The most untouchable. You don't need revenge to heal, but sometimes, speaking your truth out loud is the most powerful closure you'll ever get. And trust me, you deserve to be heard.